In this video, it's one of those cars that most people have forgotten about, the Suzuki SX4. It was in production from 2006 to 2013, built in Hungary, designed in Italy by Giugiaro, but Japanese engineering, yet there was also a Fiat version. There's quite a lot to unpack, so let's get into it. The SX4 is developed from the Swift platform and turned into the crossover SUV type thing, but I don't think it's that SUV-ish. I don't find it too offensive. SX4, as you might anticipate, there are four-wheel drive versions, but this one actually is just front-wheel drive. Engines were a mixture of Suzuki petrol or Fiat diesel engines, and I think later they may have used the HDI engine as well. And while the vast majority were this sort of SUV hatchback shape, there was actually a saloon in some markets, which is a most odd looking thing. But let's have a peek under the bonnet and see what this one's got. Under the bonnet there is a big lump of plastic, but actually we can see an engine. This is a Suzuki 1.6 petrol engine. There was also a 2 litre in some markets, and like I say, there were the Italy sourced diesel engines, first from Fiat and then PSA Group. And the Fiat Sedici, exceedingly rare, but it is just pure badge engineering. It was a car that was initially designed just for Europe, but it ended up being a bit of a world car for Suzuki. They were built in places as far flung as Indonesia, and I think they even tried selling them in America, so it had a true global following in the end. But an engine where actually you can get at stuff. Largely, look, there's actually space around it. We can even see the ground in places, so lots of room for activities in here. That's quite encouraging. Screen wash tucked away over here, coolant bottle there. Yeah, stuff actually seems quite accessible. It has keyless entry, which means you can just press buttons and you can unlock the car. It's already unlocked. Electric release for the tailgate. And oh, that's quite a decent boot in there. I like the little bag over here, which I assume is aftermarket. But is there anything under the floor? That's always a key consideration for me. Yep, we've got a space saver spare, so there is actually a spare wheel down there, a little bit more storage around there. And of course the seats will fold on a 60-40 split to make it a bit more practical. So quite a lot of space for something that is based on the Swift platform. So this is an XEC trim level. I have no idea what that means, but this dates from 2013, right at the end of production, and I think basically they just threw all the toys at it. Let's see what accommodation is like in the rear. Got to be a stop next to a puddle. Oh yeah, I'm going to put the head restraint up. But news is good. This is a good thing about crossovers, is because they sit a bit higher up and the seat's a bit higher, you end up with good knee room. I've got plenty of headroom as well. I'm 5'10", and it's pretty decently comfortable. Actually, the seat's quite soft. We've got some storage here, which is apparently only for bottles. Look, they kindly show you a bottle in case you don't know what a bottle looks like. But it seems pretty decent to me. Sitting in the front, and what strikes me is it doesn't feel like a small car. I've driven a Swift. The Swift feels quite a small car. This feels quite large. Got the larger windows here. You sit so upright. Huge windscreen. It feels very, very spacious. But we better get to the important business of the wiper test. So start the engine. Check out the wiping performance. And it's all good news. As you'd expect for a car that's primarily Japanese, very good. Got a nice overlap up here. Huge driver's wiper clearing a lot of screen. And if we swing to the rear, I love the fact that the rear wiper not only does intermittent, but you can have it on full as well. Very common on the Japanese stuff, and I appreciate that a lot more because it gets very wet here and sometimes intermittent just isn't enough. I'm going to apply some lights because it is rather gloomy. And we'll head down the road. Yeah, it's a nice driving position. I like it. It just feels cozy but spacious at the same time. There's nowhere to rest your clutch foot. Seems a bit of an oversight, but I'll let them off. Everything else falls nicely to hand. There isn't that much. There's not much in the way of switch gear at all. I've got a couple of switches over here, my window switches, and then nice buttons and controls for the digital aircon. This is an aftermarket unit, which I think fits really nicely. I don't know what make it is, but fits very nicely to the dash. Hazard light check. I don't know if that's a fake indicator noise or a real one, but it sounds like an actual indicator noise, so I appreciate it. We've got the aircon set, 5-speed gearbox, very nice precise action, and away we go. So straight away I can feel the fact it's not a 4-wheel drive, but the fact we've got a little bit of torque steer here in the wet. But the steering weights up beautifully as you start getting some speed on. It feels really quite nice. Look at the weather today. Could it be more Welsh? But yeah, steering is absolutely lovely. Gives a lovely direct feeling. The engine, pretty strong. It's the same engine as the Suzuki Swift, the performance orientated one we drove a while back down at Chop's Garage. Which I erroneously said had 160 brake horsepower. It wasn't, it was 123. This is slightly less, 118. And the only problem really is that low down the rev range, there is not much in the way of torque. So if you come to a hill, you've got to get downshifting. But yeah, even in these somewhat dubious conditions, it just feels very well planted and enjoyable to chuck around, which is hardly surprising because the Swift it's based on is a great little hatchback. It's a lot of fun. I'll say this has a better ride, maybe because it's maybe a little longer, but I think this is one of those cars that just isn't really on anyone's radar. They weren't hugely well noticed even when they were new, even though they're kind of anticipating that crossover market when they were launched in 2006. By the time production ended in 2013, when this one was built, everyone had jumped on that bandwagon fully. Yeah, it's not difficult to maintain some brisk progress. So these cars were made in Hungary, and Suzuki built a lot of cars in Hungary, and I think Fiat's involvement really was limited to the diesel engines. But the Fiat Sedici was pure badge engineering, also built in that Hungarian factory. But I like Suzuki. Suzuki just quietly gets on and kind of does its own thing, and I think does a very good job for the most part. Certainly feedback from owners is that their cars are really rather good, but blasting around here like I'm on some sort of rally stage, which is fitting because the local Suzuki dealer is no less than Gwyndaf Evans, the famous rally driver from the 1980s, whose son Elvin is currently just about leading the World Rally Championship. Yeah, it's just a nice easy car to drive. It's not challenging. We're doing just under 2,500 revs at 60 miles an hour, so it's quite relaxing. Noise levels seem pretty well catered for. Yeah, there's a lot to like. This is a lot of fun to drive around these hills in Wales. The little snickety gear lever, you can almost change it just with the flick of the wrist. Beautiful. And it drives really tight. And I know I don't often drive cars with so little miles on, but 59,000 miles on this example, and I mean it just feels brand new. There's no driveline shunt. It's an absolute joy. Really well behaved, great manners. This road is somewhat challenging, but not for the car, it seems. Beep, beep. I don't know why it's beeping. Cars beep. But overall, that's a very likeable car. It's just nice and pleasant to drive. Everything has a nice weight to it. The steering actually requires a bit of effort. It's not over assisted at all. Gorgeous gear change and a lot of fun to drive on the twisty roads here in Wales. No wonder we've seen so many of these in this area. Whether you like crossovers or not is a matter for yourself, but just as a fundamental car, to get in and drive a minimum of hassle. That is really nice and vastly underrated. I mean, just look at the depth of the glass. That is an unusual thing in a 21st century car. So a lot to like there. I know the owner paid £4,500 for this earlier this year, and I'd say that was money pretty well spent. It's still pretty low mileage for the age, so nicely done. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hub Nut store if you'd like to buy some of the merchandise I've forgotten to wear. We'll see you in a future video. Farewell. Just before the train came in.